It's time for City Beat, your source for all the latest news on the city of Thompson. Only on 102.9 CHTM, your radio station.
Good morning and welcome to City Beat here on 102.9 CHTM. My name is Stuart Walter and my guest this morning is Mayor Dennis Fenske.
Good morning.
The RCMP are currently investigating something across from the Mystery Lake Hotel around Fast Gas, and I've been asked by listeners to ask you if you could shed some light as far as what's going on.
Yeah, my understanding is that we've had an incident early this morning. It's been taped off, as everyone can see, so it's been declared a crime scene. The RCMP are investigating, and they'll update us as they have more information.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business recently released their 4th edition of the Manitoba Municipal Spending Watch Report using data collected between 2008 up to 2015. I think it's fair to say that the report sheds a not so flattering light on the city of Thompson when it comes to administration, specifically when they say that spending increases by the city are unsustainable and are due in large part to increased labor costs. What are your thoughts on the report? I've heard a lot of people pointing the finger at you and the rest of council as you are the ones currently responsible for the city, even though the figures are mainly from before you and the rest of city council were elected to your current positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fair criticism from the perspective of the market study is done biannual, I believe, and the basis of their formulas are based on population and increased or decreased spending as it relates to population. And so, for the simple of it, if your population is decreasing, then your costs should be decreasing as well. If your population is increasing, then you have the ability, because you have a wider tax base, to increase your costs. There are a number of issues that we take with this report every time it comes out. One in regards to the blanket statement that labor costs are the driving issue in our costs. Labor costs are responsible for 50% of the operating budget of the city of Thompson. That is true, but and that's at face value. But if you drill a little deeper, and this is what the report doesn't say, is that our labor costs aren't attributable to pay increases as they surmise, and that everybody guesses that everybody is getting paid extraordinary amounts for the city of Thompson. That's not the case. We, over the last number of years, have allowed increases to our unionized and staff below or at the rate of inflation. The increase in labor costs for us, there's two components. One, at the request of our community, increasing the quality of life for the community and the safety of our community, we've actually increased staff over this time frame. So, for instance, the community safety officers, we've employed 8 of them from the start of the beginning. So we did receive 50% funding for 2 years. This report doesn't recognize that revenue. They just recognize the cost. In addition, we've taken over the waste disposal grounds, which added employees to the city of Thompson, but it also added revenue. So the cost of the waste disposal grounds has been net neutral in regards to increased costs. On the one hand, the cost of labor did go up because we added people or we absorbed people, but on the other hand, the revenue to pay for that was also in place. So that this report doesn't recognize that as well. We also took over the operation of the water treatment plant. With additional revenues coming from Valet through an agreement, but not covering the $1 million operating cost. And so, again, at face value, our labor costs did rise significantly over this time frame that they've looked at. But at the same time, we had an increase in employment due to the requirements to meet the needs of our community, whether it be in water and sewer or water treatment plant or community safety officers, and also the Thompson Regional Community Center. We opened a community center over this time frame. We added programs and staff, which increased our labor costs. Again, this report doesn't reflect that. And the last thing that I would say is that this council, and again, as you mentioned, everybody points to this council as being responsible for, but I would like to say that this council in our term, our rate of tax increases in commercial and residential in the first year was 1.5 on residential, 1.5 on commercial, and the rate of inflation was 1.92. In the second year, it was 1.5 and 1.5 both on residential and commercial, and the rate of inflation was 1.42. And the last was 1.9 on residential and 1.9 on commercial, and the rate of inflation is 2.15. So this council has been responsible in controlling our costs. In the last budget year, we reduced our costs by $487,000. So again, we take issue with the report, especially, and I think all municipalities in Manitoba would have issue with the report in the last line of the report where they talk about suggesting that the province of Manitoba should freeze all funding to municipalities at the current rates, which would be catastrophic for municipalities across Manitoba.
Throughout the report and on the table where it lists the towns and cities in Manitoba from 1 to 10, with 1 being the best, for Thompson, it says the population only slightly increased and it referenced around the 13,000 mark. Do you think the report, when it comes to Thompson, would be totally different if they took into account the services that Thompson offers in terms of the larger population?
Well, and I think that you've hit on a very good point in that in regards to the costs, we have the largest RCMP contract in Manitoba at 38 members, and we have a rural detachment out of Thompson as well. But we pay for the city portion of that, and that's about 17% of our costs in our operating budget, which we have no control over. And believe me, the RCMP are the number one force in Canada, and I would not want to have anybody else but the RCMP here in Thompson. But the reality of costs is that it's an uncontrollable cost for us. It's an agreement between the province of Manitoba and Public Safety Canada. We are a signatory of the agreement, but we have no input as to the cost structure.
At the last meeting of council, the announcement was made that a new committee has been formed to look at what could potentially happen with regards to transit in Thompson once Greyhound packs up shop at the end of October. Is there any update on the committee?
I believe the committee has met since that last council meeting. We are looking for an update to council on Tuesday, and we can provide more information at that point. But my understanding is the committee is up and running, and they're looking at the alternatives, as I outlined at the announcement, that from the extreme of the way we currently operate under a contract with Greyhound or another provider, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which would be no transit at all. And so they're working between those parameters to find out the best situation for the City of Thompson moving forward post October 31st.
As you mentioned, City Council is set to meet on Tuesday night, not on the normal Monday as it is Labor Day. What can people expect as far as the agenda is concerned for Tuesday?
I think, well, we've got a couple letters from ministers, Minister Wharton in regards to the Roads and Bridges program. We'll be talking about that. We have some resolutions to pass, some housekeeping resolutions. And so it's just an update. It's getting back into the swing as the community gets back into the swing of things as of the long weekend. So too will council and administration. Things will pick up over the next couple months as we move toward the election as well.
There was an announcement on the city's Facebook page yesterday afternoon that there would be an emergency water shutoff in the Cree Road and Southwood area due to unforeseen circumstances with construction. What caused the situation, and has it been resolved? I live in the area, and I know I saw crews working late into the night trying to get things fixed.
Yeah, I believe there was a valve replacement that had to take place, and that the work had been scheduled, and it had to be delayed, and then we had to do it under an emergency situation. So I believe that was the work that was being done.
What's the latest update when it comes to the road work being done here in the city?
Just on the way here this morning, the contractors are on Station Road. They're pouring concrete for the sidewalks. They were on the north side yesterday. I see they're on the south side in front of Home Hardware today. So that should be completed, I would say, in the next couple days. And then we'll be milling Station Road, taking up some of the asphalt and relaying asphalt later this month, or next month, sorry.
You mentioned the election a short while ago. There is a candidate information session tonight to kind of get more information about what it's all about.
Yeah, actually, it's a good one. They started it at the last election, and it's both for trustees and for council and mayor hopefuls. And so I would encourage anyone that has an interest in either the trustees on the school district side or council or mayor on the city side to come out. Administration from both parties will be there to explain the process and the rules in regards to signing up getting the right names in place, and also the roles and responsibility of council and mayor and trustees as you go through the election process. So I would encourage anyone that's interested or thinking about coming out that they come to the Electman Theatre tonight at 7 and pick up some more information so that you can make your choice on from an educated perspective.
And then also, as has already been mentioned, it's Labor Day weekend. What's closed and what's going on?
City facilities will be closed for the Labor Day, which was Monday, for the long weekend. Other commercial institutions, I would assume, will be following the same schedule from banks and things like that. There is a steelworkers celebration of Labor Day on Labor Day at noon at the Steel Center, and I encourage everyone else to come out and enjoy the festivities of the steelworkers program.
And of course, the Labor Day weekends means that school is happening right away. It's starting up again. And that means school speed zones are in effect as well.
Absolutely, and just to remind people, although school doesn't start until September 4th, the bylaw states that it's September 1st to June 30th. So September 1st, the speed zones are in force, which means 30 kilometers in front of all schools with the exception of R.D. Parker on Thompson Drive. And so adjust your driving habits. There will be enforcement out there. So, and we have had the speed zones for a number of years, so people shouldn't be surprised. So adjust your driving habits in front of school zones.
And then finally, the Norplex pool, I understand, will be shutting down this weekend for some upgrades and maintenance.
Yeah, this is the annual shutdown that the Norplex is going through. We've got a couple projects to complete. We did do an earlier shutdown for the Manitoba Games, so much of that work got done. This time we can focus on some of the change rooms and some of the power requirements that we need to run the pool.
And then so that shutdown is running from September 2nd through the 24th.
That's correct. Yep.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
If you have any questions you'd like answered next week, email them in advance to CHTMnews@arcticradio.ca. For City Beat here on 102.9 CHTM, I'm Stuart Walter.
City Beat will be back next Thursday morning at 11:30.